Gentleman's time's expired. Chair recognizes Ms. Greene for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, here in the Oversight Committee hearing, Chairman Mendelson said there is not a crime crisis in Washington, D.C. An hour later on the D.C. Police Department Twitter, alert, shooting investigation in the 3000 block of 30th Street Southeast. Look for a black male wearing all black clothing, last seen fleeing from the 3000 block of 30th Street Southeast. There's been a double homicide, I believe, is being investigated right now here in D.C. Chairman Mendelson, do you stay with your statement that there is not a crime crisis in Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely, and as I said in my opening statement, it is concerning, and there are folks who believe that crime has gotten worse. But when you look statistically, 10 years ago, crime's down 45%. Year to year, crime is down 7%. Go back to the 1990s, 400 homicides.
Chairman Mendelson, this is 2023. We aren't back in the 1900s. This is 2023 in Washington, D.C., and there is a crime crisis in Washington. Now, I would like to also talk to you, Mr. Allen. This is your tweet where it shows here that the D.C. City Council is more interested in renaming streets than doing anything about crime. And that's a shame that that's your focus. I'd also like to point out the Rand Paul staffer that was stabbed in the head in broad daylight here in our nation's capital. I'm from Northwest Georgia, and when visitors come to our capital, I have to warn them about the amount of crime and how dangerous the city streets are here in Washington, D.C., because it's completely out of control. I'd also like to point out that it's completely shocking to me that this bill you all had was going to eliminate all mandatory and statutory minimum sentences other than first-degree murder, regardless of whether the offense is committed while armed or unarmed. It was going to reduce mandatory minimum for first-degree murder from 30 years to 24 years, eliminates life sentences, eliminates compliance liability for felony murder prosecutions, and reduces the maximum sentence for first-degree sexual assault and first-degree sexual abuse of a minor from life in prison to 30 years. Obviously, I can't even comprehend that. That's hard for me to even consider. But maybe the problem is that the D.C. City Council isn't worried about crime. You know, lying about how insane crime is not a problem here doesn't cover it up. And saying that you support the police or funding the police doesn't change the fact that there is a lack of police officers here because they don't feel the support here in the city. Let's talk about Mr. Pemberton. Over the past 6 years, plummeting numbers of police homicides have increased 75%. Carjackings have increased 227%. Armed robberies have increased 46%. And most tragic and alarming, these are your words, juvenile homicide rates doubled. Can you expand on that, please, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So this all relates to the number of police we have on the department. We cannot fulfill the demand. We cannot respond to the 911 calls. We cannot get to the people who are requesting our assistance from us. And when we get to the scene, there's not enough officers to properly handle it. We don't have enough detectives to investigate these cases. And then when we are, the criminal justice system is failing us. And all of this can be traced back to the policies that the City Council has passed. And in addition to that, the rhetoric that they've used. Police officers do not want to work in an environment where their elected officials are treating them like garbage. And that's why they're leaving. They're going to other jurisdictions. As everyone has said here today, there's a crisis in law enforcement. These officers can go anywhere. They can I'd be surprised if you told me about a law enforcement agency somewhere in this country that was not hiring. So these officers are phenomenal officers. They have a resume. They can literally go anywhere they want. And to that extent, you know, you've heard Mr. Mendelson and Mr. Allen both say that this this is a national issue. Well, the reason it's a national issue is because the same rhetoric and the same types of legislation have been passed all over the country, which is why all of these major cities are having these same problems. And the fact is, until they start respecting their employees and start treating police officers correct, we're not going to get ourselves out of this mess anytime soon.
That's right, Mr. Pemberton. And I'll go back to one thing. While a shooting occurred while we're sitting here having this hearing, your strict gun control laws are not protecting residents here in D.C., but they are allowing criminals to run rampant in the streets, murdering people. I yield back.